They wanted to understand what worked. Oh, I think the audio was not on. Can we hear me now? I wanted to be sure everybody can hear me now. Okay. All right. I think for the purpose of the audio issue, I would like to kind of maybe share some thoughts about some of the things I already shared in the beginning, so that everybody can capture the thoughts that I have in my mind. So let me just kind of review some of the things I said for those who are just joining us now. I mentioned that Nigerians are dreamers and doers. When the enabling environment is provided, whether you are in the market of Onitsha, the hubs of Lagos, the farmlands in Benue, thinking about the oil platforms of the Niger Delta, or maybe the halls in Uzuka, or look at the skyscrapers, everywhere in New York, in Houston, in London, in Dubai, everywhere you see Nigerians, there is one thing that is common that I know for sure. When given the right environment, we excel. The creativity, the resilience, the passion for growth. See, the Nigerian spirit is one that is most powerful that I know of all around the world. And here is the thing. I mentioned that Nigeria is not weak, and Nigerians are not weak people. Nigeria is strong, thinking about its potential, the people, the ideas, the passion that Nigerians have. But here is what we need to know. Strength alone does not build nations. But what builds nations is the ability to convert the strengths into power, the ability to study patterns, to recognize patterns, to use patterns, and then to create patterns. That is what we need to transform our nation, Nigeria. So, this is the fundamental principle for nation building. I mentioned the study that Bishop David Oyedepo had with his team when they wanted to build the Covenant University. Before the first brick was put together, they studied several universities, they studied patterns, they studied what worked, what didn't work, and how to design a system that could live even beyond a single person. To design a system that would endure. This is the fundamental principle for nation building. And this is what we are here to talk about tonight. Nations that thrive are not just nations that are not intentional. I want us to think about this. Every nation you see in the world has its own challenges. They have their own ups and downs. There are nations that we know today, and we recognize them, and we understand the patterns behind their progress and their failures. In 2012, I had the honor of receiving a national award from then President Goodluck Jonathan. As I stood there in that room, looking around the room, I saw governors, I saw ministers, director generals, billionaires, people whose decisions shaped this nation. And in that moment, I thought, imagine if every single one of us in this room understood and applied the systems I'm about to share with you today. I was just a hard-working young Nigerian with no political connections at all, only the grace of God and a burning desire to see our nation transformed. That moment left me with a burden that has never left. The transformation of Nigeria must not be left to chance. We have to be intentional about the transformation of our dear nation. I began to study patterns, like I mentioned, that we have to recognize patterns, we have to use patterns, and we have to create new patterns in order to transform our nation. So when I studied patterns and I look at nations and organizations that have transformed, that have moved from nothing to something great that the whole world is talking about today. Think about Singapore, Rwanda, the UAE, looking at how they moved from where they were to where they are today. And I kept asking myself, what is the hope of the boys and girls under the bridge in Lagos? I began to ask myself, the families that are drinking river water in Igolao, Kogi State, the young minds with big ideas, but no environment to bring them to life. What is the clear plan of our dear country? What is Nigeria's clear, actionable transformation plan? And how can this be known not only by policymakers in Abuja, but by the men and women in the markets, the farmers in the fields, in different fields, and the youths in our schools and entrepreneurs in our streets? This is why I developed the ADAPT model, a system sustainable change leadership framework tailored for Nigeria's reality. My people, this is very important, and this touches my heart. And I know that if we can all adopt and see the strength in this framework, we can all create the transformation that we want to see in families, in communities, in teams, in organizations, in our dear country. This is not just theory. It's a practical, scalable system inspired by nations that have rebuilt, reformed, and risen. So this model moves us from vision to velocity. And that's the mindset. It ensures that transformation is not dependent on a single leader or election cycle, but it's embedded into the fabric of our national systems. And that's why we are here tonight, to have this important conversation. And as I walk you through these 6 steps tonight, I want you to think about 2 powerful questions. And I don't want you to miss this. Please listen to these questions carefully, whether you're watching me on Facebook, on YouTube, or on LinkedIn. Here are the questions. Number 1, where do I fit in this blueprint? And number 2, how can you commit to being part of Nigeria's transformation, no matter where you are in the world today? Because, my fellow Nigerians, a scalable Nigeria is possible, but only if we build this scalable Nigeria together as a people. So, let's talk about the mission and the vision of this scalable Nigeria that I'm talking about. Here is it. Scaling a nation starts with scaling its leaders. We cannot scale a nation without scaling the leaders. Do we have scalable leaders who are capable to lead our nation? And that is the big question. We don't need people who are only thinking about politics, not leadership. Because leadership is not a throne, it's a kitchen. Everybody sees the boiling water. But what about the eats? Are we thinking about the eats that produces the boiling water? The service, the sacrifice, the hard work, the learning. That is what we need in leadership in our dear country. And let me say this, we don't need politicians in leadership. We need leaders in politics. Africa doesn't lack potential. I know this because I've seen this and I've experienced this. It lacks scalable systems, visionary frameworks, and execution capacity. And that ends now. And that's why we need to continue to have this kind of conversation, especially conversations that can lead us to transformation. And today, whether you are a Nigerian or not, the burden that I have in my heart is huge. And I want us to know that we can transform our dear nation together. This platform, scalablenaija.com, exists to turn ideas into blueprints and blueprints into bold transformation. So what's the mission and what's the vision? So let me just quickly share the mission and the vision with you before I get into the systems. Remember what I said in the beginning. Carefully, we have done our research. We've studied patterns. Those who have succeeded, organizations and nations. Those who have transformed their environment. We've studied patterns. And then we have put those patterns together. What worked? What didn't work? If it works, let's scale it. If it doesn't work, let's transform it. That is what this conversation is all about. And the mission is to equip decision makers with practical frameworks and leadership tools that lead to measurable national transformation, citizen empowerment, and economic scalability. This is what this conversation is all about. The vision is to ignite a leadership transformation in Nigeria and across Africa by applying proven models and scalable leadership in public institutions, private enterprise, and national systems. If we can understand these models, those frameworks, trust me, we can transform our dear nation. Just like I stood in that room that very day and I saw leaders, I saw people who are making decisions in this nation. And I thought, what if everyone understood these systems that I'm about to share with you? Ladies and gentlemen, here are the systems. Number one, the first step, alert the system. I call this system alert. The first thing that needs to happen in order to transform our dear nation, and in fact, let me say this real quick. This same framework can be used in families, can be used in communities, can be used in organizations. It is scalable. It's a well-researched framework designed that we call adapt model. The number one step is system alert. We have to alert the system. This is the responsibility of the leader. Whether you are leading a dear nation, you are leading a state, you are leading a local government, you are leading an institution, you are leading an organization, you are leading a community, you are leading a group of people. The first thing is to alert the system. Everything that we see in Nigeria today that most people are complaining about is an alert. If someone has headache, it's an alert in the body that something is wrong with the body. If I have headache, is an alert that is something that is dysfunctional in the body. So I have to check it. There are many things today in our dear nation that most people, if you go on social media or just open the newspapers, you see several alerts all around us. Well, the first step is to alert the system. Recognize warning signals and create urgency for national renewal. This is very critical. And there are three major actions that we must take as we alert the system. Number one, declare a national transformation state of emergency across key sectors. Number two, launch a national feedback and alert platform for real-time public insight. There is a need for transparency. Without transparency, we cannot achieve this. Number three, appoint a cross-sector transformation leadership council of experts. And I underline experts, not just people who are connected with political leaders, not just people who are loyal without being expert. I'm talking about experts, youths, and reform-minded thinkers. I mean, think about the global example. One of the examples we studied, Singapore. In the 1960s, Singapore recognized its vulnerability and used global benchmarking to define its future. This is what we can achieve as a nation. Number two, step two, diagnose the gaps. The moment we raise that alert, we need to diagnose the gap. If someone has headache, the first thing that the doctor would advise is to check or to understand the cause of the headache because they want to get to the root cause. So one of the recommendations will be to go for a blood test in a lab. And this is why we need to diagnose the gaps. Many times we know the problems, we talk about the problems, but do we really know the root cause of the problems? So that when we get to the root cause of the problems, then we can all uproot that problem so that we don't see that kind of problem anymore. However, many times people that we have in leadership understand the problem. They know the problem. They are not ignorant of the problem. They travel to different countries, even some of the countries I'm talking about here today. And here is a statement. And of course, one of my conclusions. And that's why we are doing what we are doing today. You can't wake up someone who pretends to be asleep. So if a leader goes out there and understands the problem and then pretends to be asleep, you can't wake such a person up. It's hard. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, you are just stressing yourself. There is a need for mental transformation because you cannot help someone who has not helped himself. And that is why leadership starts with self. It starts with self. So number two is to diagnose the gap. Identify the root causes and structural barriers. And so there are three major actions that we must take in order to diagnose the gap. Number one, conduct a national capability audit across ministries, agencies, and sectors. Number two, map institutional weaknesses, value gaps, and leadership vacuums. And number three, we have to introduce a truth dashboard. Can you imagine a national truth dashboard? A dashboard that every leader in every institution can have access to. Everybody can understand what is going on in every institution. So sector A understand what is going on in sector B. Institution A understand what is going on in institution B. And then we can all learn from one another and then build something that is sustainable by using the truth dashboard with real-time performance metrics and transparency reports. This is possible. They've done it in Rwanda, and we can as well implement the same thing. Think about Rwanda in 1994, post genocide. Rwanda diagnosed ethics structural and governance fractures and used homegrown systems, for example, like the Gakaka crops, to rebuild. This is sustainable. How can we build from our strength? How can we leverage on what we have and what we carry as a nation? Number three, and this is the third step, assess readiness. You can't order change. You can't order change. Remember what I said, that leadership is not a throne, it's a kitchen. It's a kitchen where several ingredients are put together in order to prepare the meal. And that requires service, it requires sacrifice, it requires patience, because you have to cook and prepare the meal. It requires a focus in order to create the transformation that we need. But there is a need for leadership at the center. So assessing readiness requires evaluating leadership capacity and national appetite for transformation. So there are three actions that we must all follow in order to experience this, starting from the top to that woman on the street. Run readiness assessments at states, local, and federal levels. Number two, we have to launch civil service immersion exchanges with globally functioning nations. This is very critical. If we go into the DNA of our civil service, you will cry for our dear nation. If you see how productivity declines every day, I imagine a nation where the public service focuses on profitability like the private sector. When the public sector focuses on productivity like the private sector. Number three action that we must take: to mentor new generation leaders into transformation pipelines. This is an intentional act that we must all go through. You can grow by accident, but you can't scale by accident. It requires intentionality. So there are examples, several examples that I can provide in this case. But let me just talk about China. In the 1980s, China invested in leadership readiness and global education before scaling transformation. And today, everybody is talking about China. Everybody is talking about China. Everybody, visiting China because they are competing globally. The country is producing. Number four, and this is the fourth step: participate through dialogue. Let me repeat this again. You can't order change. We have to create collective ownership by involving all leadership types and then utilize what I call the AOIU framework, starting from the national level to the local government level. We have to understand people. Leaders understand people. Leaders focus on people. Leaders equip people. Leaders empower people. Leaders observe people. Leaders listen to people. And leaders study people and position them well so that they can deliver their best. So in the process of transformation, there is a need to identify people's strengths. There is a need to have people of different leadership types in the room. Number one, achievers. These are result-oriented people. They are result-driven people. We have to engage achievers in measurable impact strategies in order to bring in their own ideas because they are self-driven to make great things happen. We have to engage organizers, people who think systems, system-driven people. They can help us structure reform implementations. They can help us create what we need to transform our dear nation. We have them in every nation in the world. How can we bring them together? How can we digitalize our transformation? How can we create a system whereby we understand everyone, every expert that we have everywhere in the world? How can we have a pool of experts on a platform? This is possible. These are things that we can implement in our dear nation, where there is a need to have innovators, idea-driven people, people who are just innovative, who are just thinking about the next steps because of their exposure, people who can contribute disruptive insight and new models. And then we need to involve unifiers, those who can bring us together, people-driven people, those who can facilitate public buy-ins and community alignment. So for us to achieve this, there are two actions that we must take together as a nation. And every leader needs to also have this understanding. Number one, establish strategic think tank and national dialogue lab. This is very critical. Now, the dialogue lab I'm talking about is not a place where people come to consume. It's a place of contribution and production. It's a place where the nation will invest in and say, here is our national lab. This is the place where ideas are generated, the think tank for the nation. What if we visit New York and get those think tanks, Nigerians who are doing great in several countries, in several organizations across the world? They are there. We know that they exist. What if we look across the nation, every state in Nigeria? There are Nigerians who are doing great things, who are doing exploit. People who are built from nothing. They understand what it means to create transformation. What if we bring these brains together and then create a think tank organization that we call a national dialogue lab? Number two action that we must take together: reform the National Orientation Agency into a value-based civic engagement hub. And this is a big challenge for our National Orientation Agency. What are we doing today? What do we call reform? How are we reforming our dear nation? Do we have value-based civic engagement hub? How are we impacting the child in secondary schools in Nigeria? How are we taking these basic things, this leadership concept, to where they are? What about their teachers? Do they understand what true leadership truly means? And that's what we are talking about today. I mean, think about South Africa. They've done it. South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission was a national dialogue model that restored moral structure in South Africa. So number five, the T, transform through alignment. Alignment is very critical. You cannot create transformation without alignment. In our dear nation today, many institutions are not aligned, and there is a need for alignment. We must ensure that policy, budget, and leadership values are aligned. If our leadership values are not aligned with the budget, with the policy, we can't create transformation. Many times, there is always a disconnect from the budget, the policy, and the leadership values. So there are three major things that we must all work on so that we can create this transformation we need through alignment. Number one, create a 10-year sectoral transformation plan tied to global benchmarks. This is fundamental. Number two, reform national curricula to include ethics, critical thinking, and civic innovation. Without these three fundamental skills, we can't create transformation. In fact, we can't create the future that we want in Nigeria. We have to go back to the grassroots. Let's think about our primary schools. Let's think about our secondary schools. Are we still teaching them the past? And then we are thinking about the future. We have to go back to the basics and teach them the future in order to create the future. When was the last time that we review the curricula that they have? When was the last time that we reviewed the training for trainers in our institutions? When was the last time that we reviewed those notes that the lecturers are sharing in classes? How are we focusing on empowerment in our dear nation? This is very critical. Number one, ethics. Number two, critical thinking. And number three, civic innovation. We have to look into that reformation from top down. Number three, action that we must take. We must align ministerial performance contracts to measurable transformation KPIs. Without measurable KPIs, we are deceiving ourselves as a nation. There must be a roadmap, and it must be measurable. There must be accountability, and there must be transparent. As I'm talking to you today, I don't even know any platform that I can check for me to know exactly what is going on in every institution in Nigeria. This is unfortunate. Think about United Arab Emirates. They embedded innovation in governance by aligning policy, education, and execution with Vision 2030. Right? No wonder everybody wants to go on vacation to the UAE. Everybody wants to visit the nation. How many people are dreaming to run and to visit Nigeria because of the transformation that Nigeria is experiencing? It requires leadership. Number six, scale and sustain. And that is the S in the adapt model. Scale and sustain is embedded in structures and systems that outlast the leaders. It's not about an individual, it's about the institution. It's about creating systems and structures that can outlive an individual. So there are three actions that we must follow in order to create sustainable change in our dear nation, Nigeria. Number one, adopt the scalable leadership framework in all government MDAs. This is fundamental in order to start this process that we're talking about here today. Number two, create a national transformation incubator to mentor scalable leaders. You can't become a scalable leader if you are not developing yourself. If you don't have a system of personal development, you must have a continuous development plan in order to become a scalable leader. Because the level one leadership is a place where no one graduates. No one graduates at that first level, no matter who you are in our dear nation. So when was the last time that we had a leadership, intentional leadership development program at the national level, training our top leaders what it means to truly lead? Do we have an intentional program whereby everybody must go through? Institutions, functional institutions, where everyone elected or appointed must go through in order to function well in the office. A systematic program whereby everyone must pass through and then see what it means to truly lead. And then we have the metrics to measure the progress of such programs. So the third thing that we must do here is to digitalize governance operations for efficiency, transparency, and trust. I know there are several systems that I'm aware of, in different efforts by different institutions who are already working towards digitalizing, governance operations. But we need more, and there is a need for a roadmap that we can apply across all sectors, all institutions, and all MDAs. This is very fundamental. So, two actions that we need to take today as a people and for leaders. Number one, establish strategic think tank. Remember, the same action steps for level for the fifth step. And that's the same thing we need to apply here for the sixth step. The think tank and the National Dialogue Lab. That is how we can sustain what we are building. We can't sustain, we can't scale it if we don't have a functional National Dialogue Labs. Number two is to reform the National Orientation Agency, because their responsibility is very critical in order for us to take all these systems from what we are talking about into the right implementation and taking it to the grassroots and making sure that everybody is informed about where Nigeria is going. Think about Finland. Finland scaled sustainable education. That's why many people, love to go to Finland without thinking about the weather in the country. The focus is the value, because they have scaled sustainable education and they have reformed their educational system by empowering their teachers and decentralizing innovation. That is very critical. What are we doing towards that? Empowering our teachers. If you go to an average secondary school in Nigeria, you see how the teachers talk. And we wonder the kind of products they produce. We wonder the kind of products that our universities, our polytechnics, our colleges of education, what they produce. What about the teachers? What about the lecturers? The input will determine the output. Can we focus on the root causes, analyze the root causes, discuss the root causes, work on how to create solutions for the root causes, and then implement it with people who are ethical, not people who focus on money, because history is more important than money. Whatever we do today, history will record it, and our unborn children will read what we are doing today. So finally, as I leave you today, it's time for us to move from vision to velocity. It's time for us to ensure that policy, budget, and leadership values are aligned. My people, Nigeria does not lack potential. I know that for sure. I know that Nigeria lacks velocity and systems. So to move from political performance to national transformation, Nigeria must create change systems. And that is why I am introducing ADAPT model, because this model provides a practical pathway forward. Every family can use it. Every institution can use it. Every community can use it. Every organization can use it. Every state can use it. This is for political leaders. This is for organizational leaders. This is for community leaders. This is for visionaries. This is for change agents. This is for consultants, coaches. I want to encourage you today, wherever you are listening, from all around the world, that it is not just a reform idea. It is a nation building system backed by history, strategy, and scalable tools. And as I leave you tonight, I want to leave you with 3 powerful execution steps. And please do not forget these 3 powerful execution steps. And before I share these 3 execution steps, if you have any questions for me, or if you want to learn more about this movement, and if you want to join us as we continue to move to support our leaders all around the country, in states, in communities, and of course, nationally, please visit scalablenaija.com. And then, of course, you can send an email to us at solutions@scalablenaija.com. Send us an email. Let's see how we can collaborate with your community, with your states, with your institution, with your organization, how we can work together to create that transformation that we want to all see in our dear nation. When we start talking about what it means to transform everyone, every individual, because to produce a scalable nation, there is a need to create scalable leaders. And that's what we are all about, helping people, ordinary people, to become scalable leaders. So let me quickly share these 3 execution steps. Number 1, deploy pilot implementation with strategic states and sectors. So wherever you are, I want to encourage you that we should start thinking about the deployment of pilot implementations. And that's exactly what we are planning to execute. We want to collaborate with states, we want to collaborate with institutions, with MDAs across the nation. We want to collaborate with the presidency, we want to collaborate with the Senate, we want to collaborate with the reps. How can we transform our nation together? Looking through these systems. Number 2, to train executive teams in adapt and scalable leadership frameworks. This is very practical. This is how we can scale and sustain change at all levels. And number 3, to mobilize public-private partnership to fund and monitor sustainable change. And that is why I love what then MDGs, of course, now not just Millennium Development Goals anymore, it's now Sustainable Development Goals. How can we sustain what we have started? And I want to appreciate everyone that is right here with me, whether you have joined me on YouTube or you have joined me on Facebook. God bless you, and thank you very much for being part of this today. I strongly believe that this nation can become a transformed nation if we all stand up, if we all speak up, if we all start implementing all these frameworks where we are today. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. And I will see you later. Bye for now.